In today's video, we're digging into some of the world's most mysterious and spellbinding burial sites, alongside tombs that are just plain bizarre. We'll peel back their eerie histories, revealing secrets that have stayed hidden for centuries. From a forgotten knight's grave in America to crypts tucked away in the remote mountains of Russia, join us as we uncover 15 of the most amazing discoveries made in the world's most mysterious tombs. Let's start off this countdown with number 15, Art and Afterlife in Suloizi. On Suloizi Island, Indonesia, death isn't an ending. It's a deeply personal rite of passage. Among the Toraja people, funerals blend ceremony and craftsmanship, centered around lifelike wooden effigies called tau-tau. Carved from jackfruit wood, these statues represent the deceased and are believed to house their soul during the week-long funeral process. The family treats the tau-tau with utmost care, hoping the soul feels respected enough to move peacefully into the afterlife. If not, it's believed the spirit may linger, restless and angry. Once the funeral ends, the figure is placed inside a cliffside tomb, standing beside generations of ancestors. Outsiders like you and me might see this as strange or just super unsettling, but to the Toraja, it's an act of profound respect, art that helps preserve the bond between the living and the dead. The carved faces, the rituals, and the cliffside graves aren't just tradition. They're a lasting tribute to a culture that views death not as a loss, but as a continuation of connection. Number 14. The Grave with a View, Vermont. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. A stone slab in Evergreen Cemetery looks unassuming until you notice the built-in glass window staring up from the earth. It belonged to Dr. Timothy Clark Smith, who lived during a time when the fear of being buried alive was very real. In the late 1800s, mistaken deaths weren't rare, and Smith was terrified he might wake up underground. To avoid that fate, he arranged for his coffin to be fitted with a breathing tube and a bell, along with a glass portal so anyone passing by could check if he was still breathing. His paranoia led to one of the most peculiar tombs in Vermont. Over time, the glass has clouded, dirt and moss covering the view, but the idea still unsettles visitors. What once offered peace of mind now sits quietly, overlooked by most, yet still carrying the eerie weight of a man's worst fear. His grave doesn't attract much attention anymore, but the story behind it remains one of those strange, forgotten echoes from the past. Number 13. A heartbreaking memorial in Kentucky. Jesus Loves Me, This I Know, for the Bible Tells Me So, was sung by 3-year-old Sammy while swinging in the morning of May 2nd, 2006. Unfortunately, it was the last time she ever would. That same day, she tragically drowned. Sammy loved Pink, Dora the Explorer, her dog Yeller, and collecting rocks, even gravel from the church parking lot tucked in her tiny purse. She wore her clothes backward and said, "I'm loving it," just like the McDonald's ad. Her parents, Jeff and Debbie, shattered by grief, commissioned a bronze sculpture of Sammy frozen mid-swing, created by Tom White and Terry Joy, and placed it in Louisville's Cave Hill Cemetery. Beneath it lie 3 handprints, Sammy's and those of her siblings, Jacob and Becca. Visitors still leave pebbles, her favorite. But her story didn't end there. From this pain, the Sam's Rock Prayer Group was born, a movement of faith and healing. Through bright pink shirts and countless prayers, her family now brings comfort to others. Whether you share their beliefs or not, this memorial speaks with quiet, unforgettable power. Number 12. A restaurant built on graves. Most people would panic if they found out their restaurant was sitting on top of an old cemetery. Not Krishnan Kuti. When he discovered his eatery in Ahmedabad, India, sat over a 16th century Muslim burial ground, he didn't relocate the graves. He worked around them. Literally. He built tables beside the tombs and treated them like honored guests. Customers now eat their meals inches away from green-painted grave structures. The Lucky Restaurant, as it's called, turned what could have been a disaster into something that draws curious crowds. Kuti believes the graves bring protection and good fortune, and for decades, the restaurant has thrived. Locals see it as a blend of reverence and resourcefulness. Most diners aren't disturbed. They accept the setting, sometimes even offering quiet respect. No names are marked, but the graves are said to belong to followers of a local Sufi saint. Whether sacred or strange, the place blends food, faith, and the dead in a way few places ever dare to try. Number 11. The expanding tomb of Saint Daniel. In Samarkand, Uzbekistan, there's a tomb that stretches 60 feet long, far too large for a single body. Locals say the tomb holds the remains of the biblical figure Daniel, and that after his death, his body continued growing. The legend claims 2 inches a year. If that were true, Daniel would have outgrown most mausoleums by now. Historians and archaeologists, of course, don't take the tale literally. More likely, the size was a deterrent, built so large and heavy that no one could rob it without serious effort. The tomb sits in a peaceful landscape, not far from the banks of the Siab River. Whether the story was born from faith, myth, or strategy, it speaks to how deeply Daniel was revered. In a city full of monuments to warriors and poets, his final resting place stands out not for its detail or beauty, but for its impossible scale. Whatever its origins, it has drawn pilgrims and curiosity seekers for generations, and it will be forever. Number 10. A family's monument to grief in Ireland. When 21-year-old Charlie McDonough lost his battle with terminal cancer in 2023, his family responded not with silence but with a bold tribute. Drawing support from over 300 friends and relatives, they raised nearly $165,000 to build a headstone that captured not just Charlie's memory, but his entire spirit. The result? A 15-foot monument stretching across 3 cemetery plots in County Donegal. Adorned with angels, swords, a scene of the Last Supper, and even the Donegal flag, the tribute doesn't stop there. Sculptures of Charlie's favorite car, his phone, Rolex, sunglasses, and beloved drink are all carved into stone. The McDonough family, part of Ireland's traveler community, sees such memorials as sacred. In their culture, size reflects love, and every detail matters. While some parishioners have criticized the structure for being excessive or violating cemetery regulations, the family remains unapologetic. For them, it's not about impressing anyone, it's about honoring their son in a way that truly reflects who he was and what he meant. I want people to understand that my son is lying there, and that is his place and our family place as much as it is anyone's place. We think the words of a father said it all. Number 9. The Pyramid of the Forgotten. Wakayama Prefecture holds more than a mountain shrine. It holds a monument built from sorrow. At Mount Koya, a sacred site in Japan's Kii mountain range, a stone pyramid stands quietly among thousands of Buddhist graves. It's made of hundreds of miniature statues, each a silent stand-in for someone forgotten. At the pyramid's base are figures of Jizo, a Buddhist protector of children and travelers, dressed in red caps and bibs left by mourners. Above them, smaller statues represent those without families, names, or identities, lost souls the world moved on from. The site rests near the grave of Kukai, the monk who founded the Shingon sect. But this pyramid isn't about spiritual legacy. It's about remembrance for the unseen. There are no grand inscriptions, no dates, just stone and ritual. For visitors, it's more than a memorial. It's a reminder of how many pass through life unnoticed, and how sometimes the quietest places speak the loudest about grief, dignity, and the need to simply be acknowledged. Number 8. The City of the Dead, Russia. In the rugged Caucasus Mountains of Russia sits a chilling landscape known as the City of the Dead. And it's not a name picked from a game, but real, 100%. This ancient necropolis near Dargavs features 99 stone crypts, built into steep hillsides like a village frozen in time. Believed to date back to the 13th century, the origin of these crypts and their purpose remains murky. Some suggest they were constructed for space-saving burials, while others see echoes of Indo-Iranian rituals meant to honor the land. What's certain is that the environment has helped preserve the bodies inside perfectly. The crypts remain dry and protected, allowing for a natural mummification process. Plague outbreaks once led villagers to quarantine the sick in these tombs, sealing them inside. Even today, visitors report that the corpses still appear eerily intact, with visible flesh and skin. Local legends claim that those who visit may never return. Whether you believe the warning or not, this place leaves an impression, and not just because of what's buried there. Number 7. Russia's gangster tombstones. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia's criminal underworld exploded, and with it came a new form of self-memorialization. In cemeteries across the country, the tombs of gangsters from the 1990s stand like monuments to excess. These aren't typical headstones. Many are full-body sculptures etched in granite or marble, showing the dead wearing gold watches, glasses, and designer suits. Some pose beside luxury cars. One of the most famous is Vyacheslav Ivankov, whose grave regularly draws visitors and tributes. Another, Boris Chubarov, never owned the Mercedes-Benz featured in his life-sized tomb, but he liked the brand, and that was enough. The message is loud. Power doesn't fade after death. These graves reflect a culture that blurred the lines between fear and admiration, and between crime and influence. Each sculpture was designed to preserve an image, not just of wealth, but of control. Even in death, these men made sure their legacies would be impossible to ignore. Stone became a status. Silence became a spectacle. Number 6. The Vanishing Statue. Graceland Cemetery in Chicago has no shortage of grand memorials. But one grave has stirred up confusion for decades. It belongs to a girl named Inez Briggs, or maybe Inez Clark. That's part of the problem. The statue atop her grave shows a child enclosed in a glass box, carved with striking detail by a Sicilian artist. According to local lore, she was struck by lightning during a family picnic in 1880. On stormy nights, people claim the statue vanishes, only to return once the skies clear. Records, however, don't match the name on the stone. The burial plot lists a man named Amos Briggs. Inez, it turns out, was his stepdaughter, and when her mother remarried, confusion followed. Her real last name was Briggs, not Clark. The story about lightning seems like added drama, but the mystery stuck, thanks to the mismatched names, the haunting statue, and a few eerie weather coincidences. Even now, visitors come for the miracle. Number 5. The iron cages of British cemeteries. Wrought iron structures around old graves in the UK can look like Gothic horror set pieces, but their purpose was deeply practical. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, grave robbing was a serious issue, especially near medical schools desperate for cadavers. With no laws preventing body snatching, fresh graves became good targets. Families, horrified at the thought of their loved ones being dug up and sold, began installing mort-safe cages, metal frameworks locked over graves to keep resurrectionists at bay. These weren't just symbolic. They were security systems, sometimes featuring thick bars, chains, or even padlocks. Some were temporary, placed only until decomposition made the body useless to anatomy schools. Others were built to last. Though grave robbing eventually declined as laws changed, many of these iron cages still stand, rusted but intact. Their eerie appearance draws curious visitors, but behind the iron bars is a painful truth. The dead weren't always allowed to rest in peace. All right now, let's move to number 4. Tomb of William Jeffries. William Jeff was haunted by a single thought as he lay dying. He couldn't stand the idea of worms devouring his body. The 19th century politician from North Carolina, once seen as a rising figure in state politics, fell seriously ill with bilious fever, a type of malaria. His final days were filled with intense hallucinations and an obsession with what would happen to his body after death. Fearing decay more than death itself, he begged his father to bury him inside solid rock. After his passing, the elder Jeff spent over a year carving a tomb into a massive boulder. With no coffin ready, they preserved the body in a barrel of brandy stored in a river. Once the tomb was finished, the family transferred the body into the stone chamber and, according to local stories, drank the leftover brandy. Vandals later destroyed the inscription, and today, few remember the bizarre lengths William Jeff went to avoid a fate most never think twice about. Number 3. The Mare Cemetery of Romania. In Sapunța, Romania, the cemetery doesn't whisper. It laughs, sings, and sometimes roasts the dead. The Mare Cemetery is unlike any other, filled with hundreds of brightly colored wooden crosses that each tell a personal story. Some share jokes, others offer blunt descriptions of how the person died, and many are painted with bold illustrations. It started in 1935 when a local woodcarver named Stan Ioan Patraș began writing short poems and adding vivid artwork to the headstones. People embraced the idea, even giving him life details while still alive, so their stories could be told properly. Crosses painted green signify life, red for passion, and black for death. One man's epitaph mentions his love for horses and his habit of hanging around bars with other men's wives. Nothing's sugar-coated here. The cemetery became famous for honoring lives with honesty and humor instead of silence and sorrow. After Stan's death in 1977, his apprentices carried on the tradition, turning the Mare Cemetery into a national treasure. Number 2. Paris headstones with stories. In Paris's Père Lachaise Cemetery, a few graves stand out for reasons that have nothing to do with fame. One statue shows Fernand Arbelot, a bank director, cradling the head of his wife Henriette. It's not a metaphor. His memorial literally shows him holding her disembodied head. According to cemetery records, he wanted to spend eternity gazing at her face. The result is strange, even unsettling, but it speaks to a kind of intimate grief. Another nearby grave draws far more attention. It belongs to journalist Victor Noir, who was shot and killed in 1870. His tomb features a life-sized bronze statue with one curious detail: a pronounced bulge in his trousers. Over the years, this became the center of an odd belief that touching it brings fertility. Visitors, mostly women, rub the statue, kiss its lips, and leave flowers in its hat. The surface is worn shiny in all the expected places. Whatever the original intention, Noir's grave is now famous. Number 1. A knight's tomb in Virginia. Virginia, known for giving the world historical titans like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, also holds something far less expected: a knight's tomb. Inside a centuries-old church in Jamestown, historians uncovered what's now considered the oldest tombstone in the United States. For hundreds of years, this 5-foot black limestone slab was sealed into the church entrance, only brought to light in 2018. Once decorated with brass inlays, long since stolen, the tomb still reveals a shield, a scroll, and a figure in armor. The man buried here is Sir George Yeardley, who was born in England in 1588. He came to Virginia chasing gold, fought conflicts with the Powhatan people, and eventually returned to rule as Lord Governor. Under his leadership, the colony saw the first English-style legal system and its earliest representative government. But his legacy is also shadowed. Yeardley helped introduce enslaved Africans to the colony. He died in 1627, buried by the church. Whether or not he fit the ideal of a knight, his impact is undeniable. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.